Agricultural zones shift, affecting global crop output, but very few mainstream media outlets are talking about the most important issue of our time: cold weather crop losses. Our sun is going through a 400-year cycle, which has effects on our weather patterns as our magnetosphere weakens and the jet streams go out of flow. It's not CO2, it's not you, it's the sun. Are you ready to thrive in the grand solar minimum? Then join me for mini Ice Age Conversations. I'm your host, David Dubine, creator of the Adapt 2030 Mini Ice Age 2015 to 2035 video series. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody on planet, under our planet, or above our planet. Everybody, welcome. Craig Simpson tonight from Radiant Creators joining me right here on our podcast, weekly radio program, Mini Ice Age Conversations. So much is going on. I mean, there's already a plethora and a tidal wave of information about the blackouts and whatnot. You can find that and so much analysis, including the new video I released today about magnetic motors and hidden technology with Tesla technology, Tesla oscillators, and new Tesla towers with wireless power, all being debuted in Texas. But beyond that, something that's even more hidden, I wouldn't say under the radar, but you have to have a little bit of the industry lingo talk to understand it. I'm so glad that a lot of financial lawyers are trying to decipher what is coming out of the XRP litigation with the Securities and Exchange Commission. We are, if anywhere close to what looks like happening, we're going to see a rocket ship of all rocket ships, because it does appear that Ripple is somehow going to be intertwined with the new SOFR rates, which is $200 trillion of assets that used to be pegged to the LIBOR rates out of London, that it's going to be a tokenized bond offering of $200 trillion. This is all going quietly under the radar. But I thought I would bring on our crypto expert here, Craig Simpson, because you know Bitcoin Truth Seeker, he puts out daily updates about where the markets are moving, and nobody better to talk to right now about this, because I've spent all of today, well, not all of it, but an enormous amount of today and yesterday listening to interview after interview, trying to wrap my head around this whole Ripple thing, where they're talking about if you're an institutional investor, you'll be able to dabble in Ripple. So it looks sort of possible that you and I as individual investors will not have access to Ripple anymore. And they're talking like 4-digit Ripple. I'm like, what? That's insane if they're going to truly intertwine in this with the new SOFR rates. So Craig, thanks for joining me tonight. We'll get everybody's mind off the chaos, the food price increases, the electrical disruptions. We're going to talk about something fun where everybody's going to make money. What do you think?
Oh, I was muted. Sorry, I was muted in two different ways, but now I'm here. Okay, so yeah, Bitcoin truth seekers and crypto's truth seekers out there. Yes, definitely. 2021 is a incredible year to create wealth, and also, well, it's the peaceful beyond revolution. It's the peaceful evolution. So you get to really, really help humanity's better future as a value add to making a lot of money. I'll take it. So. Well, with XRP, I got to admit, you probably, in fact, I know you studied it more than I have. I have not really been looking at it too much at all, other than I've been baffled the last couple weeks, the last couple days by XRP, because, so as we know, the SEC decided to mess with XRP, and its price kind of dumped at that point. It's very interesting that the price was pumping, and then the SEC decides to pick on Ripple, and it dumps. But ever since then, it's up a good number of percent. Like if I was to look at XRP right now, from like the bottom of where it dumped, where it started to move up, you know, right now we're up like 53%, and we've been up as high as 80% since then. So something has never been right about this, because with the uncertainty of the SEC going after Ripple, its price never has seemed to reflect that. Usually when a coin gets too much, or really any bad attention, especially from the SEC, it just dumps, almost to zero, quite a lot, and then it's just sort of over with until that gets resolved. But XRP's been correcting ever since that dump. And if I look at XRP's chart right now on the short time frame, long time frame, it's really, really healthy. If I didn't think anything was going on, if I didn't know the SEC issue was going on, I would say, well, this is a great coin. Hop in. It's making money. No signs of turning around. Great chart. So something's not quite right. And I think that banks, financial institutions definitely have invested a lot in infrastructure into using Ripple, into using XRP. And I just have been baffled where I don't see these big players having invested so much in using XRP really putting up with the SEC messing with it. And the price is never really reflected in SEC investigation of any note. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious that it's either going to go away, or someone's going to write a check to the SEC for $1 billion, and it's all going to be forgotten. So I don't know the details of what's going on as deeply as you do, for sure. But looking at the chart, it doesn't reflect a company under SEC investigation whatsoever, and other than its initial dump when that was announced, which is kind of natural in the market, especially in the crypto market. That could be organic, but it's about where it was pre-dump. So people don't care. And this is the interesting thing about it. The SEC, sure, they have control here in America, but XRP is ultimately an international currency, same as any crypto, really. And I think banks, financial institutions want to use it to move money around the planet because it's instant and it's cheap, and they already have that infrastructure implemented. So this has been a big question mark to me, if you know what I mean. With the infrastructure that's been invested in, it works, it's being used. There is a huge XRP army, as they call it. A lot of people just really like this crypto. I consider it the banker's coin. I don't see what there is to really get excited about it, but it has a great fan base. So from billionaire banker to dude who runs like the pet department at Walmart, people love XRP, and the price has no reflection whatsoever that it's under an SEC investigation. So it would appear that it's fake, and or the SEC's ability to manipulate a currency, a crypto, by trying to regulate it is just gone. Especially when you look at the fact that only matters here in the U.S. Every country in the rest of the world doesn't really care what the SEC does. So that's my observation. But I think you probably know deeper behind the scenes some things that may be going on if you've actually been listening to interviews and scanning news about it.
Well, in a general sense, you can see already we're shifting systems. And this is the year that it's going to be done. And all time frames seem to be pointing to the beginning of April for the switchover. Now, whether that means a full-on market crash and then something rises out of the ashes, like the cover of the, what was that, Economist magazine back in the 1980s, or whether they come out and say, all right, well, we're going to reset everything, and what you have, we're going to try to integrate into the new rates or the new whatever it comes out, because they were talking about trying to replug new rates in and have some sort of swap over from the old rates, from the overnight lending rates, into this $200 trillion new behemoth of a machine. So the Bank for International Settlements had come on yesterday and today and said, yeah, we're going to start using distributed ledger settlement. And suddenly an enormous amount of central bank digital currencies are within that whole sphere within a 24-hour period. And it looks like within 2 to 3 days, they'll have some sort of ruling coming out. Well, the thing was, with all this being said, suddenly the SEC is going to give a bypass over to Ripple, but the way they're going to be able, the way they worded it was only institutional investors shall be able to take part in something that's a security, but you as the individual investor, you don't know enough, so we're not going to let you partake in anything that a registered security offering is on the books for. So they're going to, they even ended up changing the rules a little bit midstream here. And hey, we've seen this quite a bit with this midstream rule change thing. So with the Bank for International Settlements moving over to distributed ledger now in the last 24 hours and saying they're going to integrate all central bank digital currencies, and we're talking about reserve currencies, whatever that form that takes. And they're talking about the Swiss National Bank, the Bank of Japan, ECB, the Fed, everything going over to a central bank digital currency that they're going to manage under their balance sheet slash distributed ledger. I don't know how they're going to word this in the future, how they're going to bring it over. But for the Bank of International Settlements, that is above all central banks. It's a clearing bank for all central banks on the planet to come out and say, we're going to roll into central bank digital currencies. We're going to oversee all of it, but it's going to run on distributed ledger. At the same time, R3 out of Singapore kicks off. And at the same time, they're going to come to a settlement with Ripple all within 24 hours. Is a little bizarre for me to think it's all coincidentally all falling into place in a 24 to 48 hour period. But the whole thing is this whole reset. And I just am baffled, the amount of Bitcoin mining that went down in Texas with the power outage. And there's a whole gamut of all these little extra side pieces that are starting to fit into place here. And you know how it is. The system definitely is going to shift this year. Now, you had some timelines talking about an economic shift. What are you seeing out in the future for some possible timelines in 2021 coming up for any shifting going on from traditional finance, reducing, shrinking, collapsing into the emergence of a new system that we're going to move to digital for the rest of our lives as we know it?
Wow. Okay, that's a good one. So I can tell you what I was looking at today. Well, you mentioned April, and now, technical analysis and such, it always is a guess. It's if you're looking at probability, you're trying to look at, using the Fibonacci sequence, linear curves, however you look at it, people are trying to figure out the probability of something happening. So TA, technical analysis of charts, you always need to incorporate also some market analysis. Some TA purists will say you do not, but I would say you do. And with that said, now people who do technical analysis that I really, really respect, that I know who I've known for years, and I've watched them do it, and they have a track record of success. Most of them say that around April you're looking at like easily it could be a $70,000 or $80,000 Bitcoin, which is a big deal because ultimately Bitcoin, its growth is based on ultimately a lack of faith in the dollar specifically, for sure. So, and then some people will make the statement of $100,000 plus Bitcoin this year. That's all very, very easy. I think we'll kind of look at that at the end of April going into March. I think we're going to know where it's going to be by the end of the year. There's been rumors of the SEC possibly going after Bitcoin to slow it down, but it didn't work with Ripple, so I'm not sure how that would go anyway. I don't know if the rest of the world really cares. And I think there's a bit of when people mention the deep state, for instance, I always look at it like you're looking at a processor like a CPU, and there's cores, there's layers of the deep state, and they're not all on the same page. And I'm seeing a battle going on because, for one thing, Nigeria has been regulating crypto quite a lot. They literally have said you have to use exchanges that are like in Nigeria. You can buy I think it's very limited what you can get. I know it's Bitcoin, but I'm not sure what else. And they literally have those sats on those Satoshis on those exchanges, and you can buy them, you can sell them, but you can't move them. I mean, they are insane, their regulation. Well, recently, this like the 11th of February, Senator Sani Musa over there in Nigeria, he said this amazing line, and this is powerful stuff. Okay, he says, and Nigeria has been one of the worst at trying to regulate crypto, which ultimately means trying to rid it because their fiat's not doing very well, and they've been trying to protect their failing fiat from crypto. So he said on the 11th, cryptocurrency has become a worldwide transaction of which you cannot even identify who owns what. The technology is so strong, but I don't see the kind of regulation that we can do. Bitcoin has made our currency almost useless or valueless. So there you have Nigeria with a failing fiat currency system trying to regulate Bitcoin, basically trying to protect their fiat from cryptocurrency. And he just said basically that Bitcoin has made our currency almost useless or valueless. They don't know how to regulate it ultimately because they don't own it. The people do if they choose to. So, right there, I think this is something that we're going to see more and more is we're going to see during the Great Reset as this rolls out, we're going to see countries, for instance, like Nigeria. We're going to see, I think, Florida as a state, or it's a city in Florida has been buying the city was buying is Orlando, I think, buying Bitcoin. We're going to see more cities, states. We're already seeing countries doing it where they're going to start hedging in to Bitcoin, other cryptos too, but especially Bitcoin to protect themselves from the Great Reset, because not everyone's on the same page. Not every country, not every company, not every individual wants to own nothing and like it and wants to go down with all the failing fiat currencies. So, as far as exact timelines, I would say I think we're going to know end of April going into March. I think we're going to know how Bitcoin is going to be accelerating. I think if we're over 70,000 at that point, I think we'll definitely see $100,000 Bitcoin this year. And so, not financial advice, people, of course. I'm not a financial advisor or a life coach, but for entertainment purposes only, I can say it's not too late to buy Bitcoin. It wasn't when it was 3K, nor 30K, nor 52K tonight. Because you basically just had Nigeria's Senate just say that, well, Bitcoin won, our fiat lost, forget it. People, buy it. We can't regulate it, even though we'd like to. So that's a big deal. And we're going to see, I think, country after country, especially smaller one, do this. And there's really no stopping it. So it is truly a peaceful revolution, I would say, in that way. And then I could look at other items like BlackRock. So BlackRock, Rick Ryder, he's one of I think he's the CIO or something like that over there, big player. He was over there on CNBC Market Alert, little show they have there, and he said that, oh yeah, we're starting to dabble in Bitcoin, which of course that quote was part of what, and that comes from I think the 17th of February. That quote is part of what started Bitcoin on this recent pump. I mean, it was due it to happen anyway, and sometimes it appears like the news is what did it, but this news is not completely what did it, but it's a good part of what got that velocity going, this recent pump. So if BlackRock, they're estimated as people have estimated that if BlackRock went like 1% in, that's like, I think, like if BlackRock goes in with 1% of their trading money, I think that's like either 40 or 70 billion. And let's face it, these accidents don't happen. He didn't just happen. Rick Ryder didn't get cornered and answer a question he was uncomfortable answering. No, this was already planned. These guys had this conversation before this ever took place. And I can tell you, I mean, let's use common sense. BlackRock, before this price pumped, they've been over the counter algorithmically buying Bitcoin for quite a while. And they just made billions on that one couple seconds of interview. And so you've got that. You've got NYDIG recently this month. They belong to Stone Ridge Asset Management, and they're a spinoff. They made NYDIG to basically do a Bitcoin ETF, which is going to get approved by the SEC. And they have about $6 billion in Bitcoin right now and 280 institutional clients. And those clients, they're all big players. These are not people. These are big players. If you're not playing with $250,000 trades, you're not part of this gang. And they're at $6 billion right now. And they plan to have over $25 billion in basically in physical Bitcoin that is shared out as an ETF to their customers by the end of this year. And so really, I've almost gotten bored looking at, of course, we know Tesla. Tesla went in 1.5 billion. That's small potatoes for many of the financial institutions that are buying in. And there was word on the street of Tesla buying because the developer who actually was developing on the team that was buying. I believe Tesla did it in-house rather than have an exchange like Coinbase do it for them. They actually did the algorithmic buying themselves, not to manipulate the markets. So they were really keeping their cards close to their chest. And so I think that $1.5 billion investment, it was already in Bitcoin when they announced it, and I think they made billions off that alone. It's insane how much they made from that. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, Nigeria, I think they're gonna go. It would not surprise me if they're one of the first countries to basically go to Bitcoin as a national currency. I think we'll see Dash do that. I think there's going to be different currencies that are used for these things, but failing fiat systems are not going to go down with the Great Reset. I think this is one of the mistakes that's been made. Is not every country in the world is cool with complete poverty and being run by technocratic globalists. So Nigeria admitted defeat, and all you got to do is get off the dollar reserve currency, get onto Bitcoin or another, real legit cryptocurrency. And that's a great way for a country, a business like Tesla. I think it's Orlando, Florida, one of the cities in Florida, and I think there's other cities around the nation that are hedging their some money into Bitcoin. So we have a lot of smart people who I honestly think are giving the Great Reset the FU. And so I don't have any more specific timelines than that, but I definitely see just news all day that people are going into Bitcoin, hedging in to protect themselves from the Great Reset.
I'll bring it back over to Central and Northern Africa, because as our food production systems continue to go offline and be reducing the yields year after year, and this year is going to be the first year it's going to be so in your face that things just aren't going to hold up in the structural system that we have right now in the centralized agribusiness in the areas that we grow food on our planet, period. So the areas in Canada and northern parts of the United States, it seems that something like 70% of all the hard red winter wheat has been damaged in the United States during this freeze event. Same in Europe from the beast to the east, although they have different wheat varieties over there, but there's still this winter type of wheat coming up has been damaged. So knowing that they're going to have to shift, or are in part now shifting to new areas to grow food, the new World Economic Forum, if you had a chance to look through the last week of January, their new analysis was they're pinpointing all these areas in equatorial regions across the planet to put their dirty fingers into the food production, because they also see the same thing. Northern latitudes won't be able to grow as much food as they used to, so the food will have to shift into other places. And the whole World Economic Forum, Davos crowd this year, just a couple of weeks ago, was focused on anything warm, anything equatorial, Caribbean, Latin America, anything like that, to restructure food production. Well, where's the next largest area you could do food production? Northern Africa, Central Africa, into the Sahel going north, where it's a dry, barren, I should say was dry, barren desert. The West African monsoon is shifted. Now, here was the whole thing. I did a video probably 6 months ago on this. The whole thing with Nigeria was part of it. And then Chad and Mauritania and Eritrea and Ethiopia. How are you going to transact currencies across those nations for A, migrant laborers, and B, materials? So that was the whole thing that set me on the quest to look to see which cryptocurrency was going to be used in this to build out a new grow zone structurally. And we're talking about the infrastructure, from the water pumps to the pipes to everything else that would be involved, and starting from bare land and bringing it up into agricultural production, but on the same scale that we would expect in Kansas. Well, I was looking in to see which protocols were running in Africa, and all of my research kept leading to the same place: Algorand. Algo, A-L-G-O. And when I did that report, Algorand was trading around 20 cents. I think today it's around $1.40. This is going to continue. Again, not investment advice, not any advice. It's just pure research on if I'm working in Nigeria, but I'm in Ethiopia or I'm in Chad and I'm a laborer trying to set up water irrigation for some of these rollouts or building roads or whatever it is, putting up silos for seed supply, how am I going to get paid? Because if I'm in Chad and I get paid by the local currency, it's going to be a 40 or 50% exchange rate at the bare minimum, even if they accept it in a different country, because none of those currencies are interoperable in all the swaths across the Sahel and into Northern Africa. Nothing's interoperable except gigantic and gargantuan losses on an exchange rate. So I was like, they're going to have to overcome that if they're really going to get people to go work up there. They're going to have to overcome this money thing first. And I was originally thinking it would be a stable coin. So I was looking into stable coins and thinking, well, which one would it be? Would it be Tether? Would it be Circle? And boom, it came right out to be Circle and Algorand. Those two seem to be the funnel of flows to pay workers, flows to pay for materials, and flows to pay governments for the opportunity to lease the land and use the land. So USD Circle and Algorand. So Nigeria fits right in that. So when you brought that up, I was like, you know what? They've already been on that. They're already all on the bandwagon of getting this North African grow zone up and running. And it's so apparent that every government across that region is onto the crypto bandwagon already. They have to be. They can't bring it out without it. That's the whole thing. Nothing in our fiat system's operable over there. It's a completely outdated system. And they're going to all jump straight over to the new world, because look where the greatest adoption is for using your phone for payments. It's in Africa. They uptake it before everybody because there's no other choice. You either get the app on your phone to transact money because your banks don't work. There's never electricity. It's the fastest uptake in the world for finance anywhere because it's the newest thing and it works, and everybody has no other option because there's no other option. So I think we match on that information there.
For sure. And when the Nigerian senator made that announcement that he knew would be seen by the world, it would not surprise me at all. In fact, I would really be surprised if it was not the case that government, the Nigerian government's already been, entertainment purposes only people, but I believe strongly they've probably been buying Bitcoin as we say OTC, and OTC, for people who might not know, over the counter. It's a weird term for it, but basically it usually means algorithmically bought, or it's bought for you by a service that buys it in a way that does not influence the market and is also transparent. I'm sorry, it's not transparent. No one knows who's buying it. So if you're a company, you want to buy $1 billion in Bitcoin, you don't want anybody to know, and you don't want it to affect the market. You could say you can go to larger exchange or groups that do this, and they'll buy it for you, and that way you're not affecting the market. Because if you put a $1 billion seller buy order in, well, that just screws the market. And you put a $1 billion buy order in, by the time it fills, well, it's not going to work well for you or anybody else. So they do it over time, and they do it in a way that nobody can see. So that's over the counter. So to me, that Nigerian government, I am sure they've been over the counter buying their asses off before making that announcement, is my guess. Just like Tesla, they were done buying their 1.5 billion when they announced it. Just like the guy from BlackRock, they're done buying their billions, or at least they have a substantial chunk of it before they announce it, because that way they go, okay, we just invested a couple billion, and maybe that's what the Nigerian government did, and then they go, okay, it's all done, all the buys are done, we got it, it's all in our hardware wallets, we got this over on exchanges, okay, everything is good, all right, now we're going to say, we quit, we give up, our fiat is crap, we went Bitcoin, boom, and overnight they just literally may have fixed a good deal of their government's financial issues, and now they're ready for the Great Reset, and they can, truly, stay afloat, be part of that grow region that you're talking about. Well, Algorand. So if I look at Algo versus USDT, so Algo versus the dollar, because that's what's going to make sense to most people. If I go to January 1st, we can definitely see it started moving. So January 1st to today, and it's been a good deal higher. It's retracing a bit right now. But right now, January 1st, if you bought Algorand January 1st, you'd be 273% up this moment. You know, so
it's a nice return.
That's a nice return. And if you ask me, I'm just not, I know I'm making some wild ass, speculation here, but that's just what I do. It would not surprise me, like you're saying, if Algorand's going to be a player there, how much Algorand was the Nigerian government, other governments just friggin' buying nonstop and have been buying. And so what I like about, what I call like the Bitcoin revolution, Bitcoin truth seekers, more than a revolution, it's truly an evolution, is I want to see Nigeria not be the Great Reset's bitch. I don't, and I don't want to see us do it either. And I hope they bought crap tons of Algo, and I hope they bought crap tons of Bitcoin, and I hope that they do well. That's really my hope, and that's why I kind of get so excited about this stuff, is because um, it's maybe the first revolution that truly is an evolution, where we don't fight the empire, the powers that be, the globalist technocracy, which certainly has a lot of power. We basically just make our own parallel society, our own parallel economy, and we ignore them. So that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, and you just have to think nothing is a real, and the Great Reset's going to really catch a lot of people off guard. And 95% of the people are going to go down with the ship because they just haven't either seen a different way, don't know enough about where the world might be moving. Because I was reading this one thing off of Zero Hedge here. Bank of America hints that Weimar Republic 2.0 is coming. And I started to read a little bit deeper into the article, and it talks about here, and here's what makes me, I was like, what? They call it the velocity of people. And they get into this whole bubble asset wealth inequality thing, like far beyond what was happening in 2010. Because what they're talking about is a commodity super cycle starting to run its nasty course again. And as we come into the reset, if they revalue the currency down, even at a 10-to-1 ratio with a super cycle commodity happening in the bubble, or something similar to 2008 and 9 running up to what the market crash was, they're saying that 95+% of the people will have to go on universal basic income because they won't be able to sustain their lives on a reset of a 10-to-1 value, because the commodity super cycle taking it up. A, the velocity of money is going to increase, and B, the velocity of people, and they equate the velocity of people equal vaccine equals freedom. So they try to tie all these different pieces in together, saying that, yep, within 12 months they're looking at another, it's an unquoted rising velocity of people endangering the velocity of money event. Twisted, but seems to be pretty true. I mean, shoosh. What if they do revalue it? Nobody's going to be ready for that. And if they're trying to make crypto illegal or something, what else is holding value out there? Land, of course, precious metals, and they're talking about silver just skyrocketing, not because of the squeeze on the ETF. Well, yes, that, but London Metals Exchange is nearly out. Oh, you got to realize that in the last 4 weeks, London Metals Exchange has drained out 85% of their silver. And here's the thing. I was reading a new update to the addendum in this, the SLV ETF, and they were saying that if they cannot get the metals brokerage houses to cover, they're going to have to stop issuing new shares because they won't have enough metal to cover, which puts them at an upper ceiling limit, literally, because the individuals like you and I are buying silver, and now it's straining the market to the point where there's going to be limits on what the market can actually issue out there, because they're not going to be able to cover. So you wonder if they're going to go to fake paper to try to cover for the physical. And really, what else is out there to hold on a reset like this? I mean, yeah, fine art, I don't think so. I mean, do you own a $25 million Picasso? I don't, and I don't even know one person who does. So, I mean, well, what is it really going to hold the value as we get into the switch of systems here? I don't know. Weimar Republic 2.0 is a scary thing unless you're going to pay your house off and buy like 1,000 acres with a 10-ounce bar of silver.
you may be able to in the future. That's one of the things that's nice about the moment is you can wait and see what happens. Hopefully, people are in a good spot already. But um, well, I think the Weimar issue, if we did have an economic, collapse like that, that's ultimately going to be the dollar. And I like metals, of course. I like my silver coins, certainly do. A little gold does not hurt. Um, but the issue I have with them is they may rise in value, but the value, unless there's a quite the economic collapse, well, it's just they're not gaining that much. And then with that said, um, will you really be able to use them? This is the thing about Bitcoin, and people talk about Bitcoin being like the new gold standard, pretty much surpassing gold. It may even happen this year. It sounds crazy, but it very well may. If not, it'll happen by 2024 or 2022. Is that, well, I need to buy something, and I have Bitcoin, which has skyrocketed in value against the dollar. Because I mean, really, one of the things about Bitcoin is, yes, it's its own world, it's doing its own thing, but really, a lot of its value, you could almost say that its value in some ways has stayed the same, and the value of the dollar has dropped. Really, it's a little bit of both. And so I want to buy something. Well, people get savvy fast. You know, you've got your crypto wallet on your phone, and you can say, "What would you want?" Okay, Dash. Okay, you want Dash? Okay, cool. Boom. Oh, you want, Bitcoin? Good to go. Boom. Maybe Doge. It very well could be that Doge becomes the standard spending currency in some places. It makes sense. Very well could be. And so even stable coins like a USDC, Circle Coin, I like it. It's my stable coin of choice. But still, that's still kind of pegged to fiat where the cryptos are not. And so, yeah, if you're looking at a great reset, if you're looking at financial unrest, if you're looking at unrest within society itself, um, I would say that if crypto's not working, then of course the dollar's not working. There's no electricity. Things aren't working very well. But then at the same time, I don't know what good necessarily silver and gold coins are going to be at that time, especially gold ones. You're going to need, for one thing, small silver coins. And so I would say that in general, the Bitcoin network is more resilient than banks. A lot of the crypto, networks are more resilient than banks. So to me, it's the really the best asset to be involved in right now to really protect your wealth and be able to actually do commerce to buy things. And if you know your currency is going to go downhill, then it's best to hedge against it. Like, one thing I think is a big deal. It's not gotten a lot of press. It hasn't. But Apple Pay. Now, okay, I know not everybody has an Apple phone. They're very expensive and made by slaves. But Apple Pay wallet is very, very popular. I mean, the Apple Pay wallet is very popular. It is. People do use it. Merchants use it. Places your grandma shops, they use it. So Safeway, the tackle shop, literally like fish and tackle. If you got to get your outboard boat engine fixed, they may take Apple Pay. Same as you might be able to pay. Yeah, well, it works. People use Apple Pay as part of their point of sale systems, and it's getting greater and greater adoption. Now, they're flirting with the idea of integrating crypto. Now right now, they just made a lot of announcements, and it didn't get too much press, I think, because maybe it doesn't deserve it. But they say that now the Apple Pay wallet is integrating with crypto. Now, when we think of that, we think, oh, great, that means I can have a crypto wallet. Like Apple Pay will be also a wallet for crypto, and I can spend from there. Okay, that's what people think. Not exactly. You can now use the BitPay card, which is a crypto-backed debit card. You can now put as a source an Apple Pay wallet, and you can pay with that. And so I see this as kind of a huge deal. And I think that means that big companies like an Apple, they're keeping their iPhone, they're keeping their Apple Pay system relevant during the Great Reset because it does have adoption. It is out there. And I think the first step was allow the BitPay card to integrate with it, basically making that a payment source. It works. I did it. It's cool. Also, the BitPay card is very cool if you need a if you need a crypto to fiat gateway to spend. But this is, in my opinion, this is Apple trying to stay relevant ahead of what is coming, because their next announcement, I believe, will be speculation that they have a Bitcoin wallet now integrated with Apple Pay that probably holds some of the other prominent cryptos, and they're just staying ahead of the game. I mean, they're a smart company. If you're Apple, if you're this massive empire, you don't want to die just because, Klaus Schwab thinks it's time for you to go and Bill Gates is offended by coal. I mean, and humanity. I mean, you're going to want to put up a fight. And so I see it happening, and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, and I just saw Gates come out. He's like, I have a solution for the power problems. It's a new kind of pebble bed reactor. I mean, what is this guy, like a nuclear physicist? He's a virologist. Come on, dude. How much junk can you throw against the wall to try to sell to the planet, right? Like, he's a savior for everything. He knows about pebble bed technology.
And now he needs screenshots.
The savior. Yeah, whatever. But Craig, going
happened?
into your daily spend, let me jump into the daily spend. You and I differ on a few things crypto-wise, but we're similar on a lot of things too. So the daily spend, I really think, is going to come into the range of Digibyte, Stellar Lumens, and Redcoin. And then for me to hold the stable coin, I'm always a fan of make or die versus having a USDC or USDT, because I do think in a massive, huge, super huge, gigantic market cataclysm correction, smash 80, 90% down, that Tether may evaporate. And I really don't know how well any of the other things based on USD in real fashion, dollars, is going to hold up in like the biggest market meltdown since the Roman Empire. I really don't. But I do think that make or die with its autonomous contract running inside there could still hold fair value at 1-to-1. And if Circle was to decrease and Tether collapsed to nothing, if you're holding make or die, you're holding all the chips, because you're just going to switch that out and start buying things again for pennies on the dollar.
Oh yeah, I think DGB definitely could be a player. Stellar, of course, is doing quite well. Make or die. I also think that coins we might see used, of course, like regional, definitely Algorand, of course. And I do think Dash would be one, and that's because they were an early integrator into text-based transactions, as in texting with a phone. Because when you don't have internet in the area, if you do have your cellular service, if you do have your text, you can do finish transactions via text. So that's one of the things that made Dash really work in Venezuela, and I do believe Yugoslavia, I think, too, when they fell apart. So also Doge. Now, Doge, I know, is kind of like the meme coin, but it's ultimately a fork of Litecoin. It's a stable environment. It has a lot of nodes out there running it. Doge is a real, currency. Even if the guy who created it, sold all of his Doge to buy, I think it was a Toyota something, but I think Doge could be a player because of the awareness of Doge has been so great. So many people bought it recently with the whole short squeeze. So I think Doge definitely could be a player just because of the awareness. So many people are involved in it right now. And for, daily transactions, all you need, see, the thing about a Doge coin that I like is that, or you could say an Algorand, a Digibyte especially, a Redcoin, I think is definitely a player in this, is you just need a coin for daily transactions, because people might say, I'm not gonna use gold to buy things. I'm not gonna use Bitcoin. I'll keep that as my store of wealth. But I'll buy out of, I will buy, let's say, Redcoin or Digibyte with my Circle coin, or Tether if it still exists, or Bitcoin, because you're right, Circle coin, Tether coin, a lot of those they could be gone, no problem. But that's why it's nice to be hedged heavily into Bitcoin, because you're good, So I think that it's just a matter of a coin. If you found a coin that, like Digibyte could be a stable coin, Doge could be a stable coin, Algorand could be a stable coin in a way, because if they just stay steady and only gain 15% a year in value, or 100% a year in value, that creates interest being a real thing. Not so much interest, but your currency gains. So you can just sit on your butt and you can make money, and then also you're beating inflation. So it just, to me, really, really changes. I think the future could be quite different, because you know, literally, if you wanted to make money, you could just spend less and you'll make more because of what you got is gaining value. So it's quite a different world. And what stable coin, like what becomes stable coins in the future is, I think will not be, fiat like dollar backed things like Circle or USDT. It literally will be probably a handful of cryptos that people have just decided that they like, that work well, that will transact in every way the world needs. And I think that really comes down to text message and also, via the internet. And so those are going to be the winners because so I think cryptos will be literally the next stable coin. And maybe the ones that we use for daily spenders won't be huge gainers, but that's fine because you might not want them to be. They'll have, whether it's 10%, 15%, 100%, something like that, they'll have a consistent yearly, return. So, I mean, when's the last time you made, 100% yearly just by keeping your money in the bank? Different world.
Yeah, and I've been watching a lot from Michael Saylor recently over at MicroStrategy, and his whole thing about that taps in right to what you said. He's like, what's the difference? And he's like, before I was really wealthy, I studied wealthy people. So this is a billionaire telling you how he studied billionaires before he became a billionaire. And he says, you know what? I learned one thing that was standard across all the elite wealthy families and the billionaires that made all their money. They bought an asset that kept continuing to rise in value and they never sold it. And he went through a whole list of things from chateaus to land, castles, and all these kind of things, all the way down to the fine artworks. And he had this huge list. There were about 15 things on it. He's like, you see this? Like these kind of fine jewels and whatever. And he went all the way back. He's like, I'm a fan of history. So he went all the way back 2,000 years and showed these things that still have value today, but they even accrued more value because the families that passed them down. So he's like, you know what they did, why they never had to sell? And this was the most important takeaway that he brought to the modern era with Bitcoin. He's like, they never sold their assets. What they did was they borrowed against the asset because they knew the asset was going to continue to accrue value in a certain percentage per year above the interest rate they were borrowing the money at. So he says, all right, let's work with Bitcoin. Even if it comes to some stabilization where it only grows 10% a year, you could borrow against your Bitcoin for 2 to 3%, 5%, pay that back, and then still have accrued 5% per year. And that goes into something you're talking about. You can't find a 5% bank rate anymore. But he was like, to be realistic, it's going to be 20% for the rest of your life every single year. So don't ever sell it. Never, 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 ever, never, never, double, never, ever sell it. Ever. Borrow against it. Because what he said is, here's another thing interesting about the movement of money and velocity of money moving forward, that right now it's in its infancy, this Bitcoin borrowing space. But he is like, I am absolutely 1,000% sure this infancy of Bitcoin borrowing right now technology is going to be a target space, because with all these huge players moving into it, they're going to need an outlet to borrow against it. So he's like, the same people funding all this transaction are going to be the same one that they're putting the innovation in it so they can borrow against it, so they never have to sell it, so they can keep it as a reserve asset class on their books and continue to grow 10, 20, 30, whatever percent per year and keep borrowing against it. And he's like, the industry is going to create the rules. The industry is going to create this new genre of Bitcoin borrowing in the financial system, so you never ever have to sell your Bitcoin. And this is the most fascinating thing I keep coming away with Michael Saylor. And Raoul Pal is also the same way. He's like, never sell it, borrow against it. And these are some real smart people out there in the room that you're looking at. So as we move forward, think about possibilities of borrowing against what you have. Because that's the whole thing with DAI right now. You can throw an Ethereum in there and take like 1/3 of the value so you don't get stopped out on the resale and use that. What is Ethereum, like 1,900 today? Well, you can get 1/3 of that value, and you never have to sell your Ethereum, but you can get, $600 worth of DAI and go out and buy something else and then wait for that to accrue. And if you have your certain exit strategy target or date, and then you could pull it out, pay back your DAI, and then keep all those gains for yourself and still have, and see, this is the whole thing. Do you have a taxable event or do you not? because you never sold anything. You exchanged something for one thing. You never sold it. You borrowed against it. So that was the whole thing about Michael Saylor too. He's like, I hate paying taxes. And he's like, you know what? If you can borrow against it, you've never sold it. So there's never a capital gains event because you only borrowed against it to accrue something else that you would want to continue to accrue. So he was like, all right, so I have $1 million worth of Bitcoin. I go in and I borrow against that. And he's like, maybe I can get $300,000. Well, I'll go buy more Bitcoin because I know it's going to continue to rise in price. It's like, and this is the way, and as long as it continues to rise in price and your borrowing rate's less than what your accrual rate or what the increases are, it's like you just keep holding everything and you never have a taxable event. And if you do decide to exit it, you trade it into something else, you don't actually sell it. And so that was his whole strategy, was borrow against it and never sell it. Then there's never a taxable event. So the whole way this space is moving forward, it seems like the big money is going to set itself up to be able to, again, never have a taxable event, but still be able to have the velocity of money moving through it by borrowing against it, which I find fascinating.
Absolutely. And something I see now that is new is interest is back. So you have your, rather than the dollar, which you know is going to generally lose money over time, yearly, basically, it's going to lose value. It used to be that a house was a big deal. People would say, "Oh, I want to buy real estate. I want to buy a house," because they could stop that devaluing of the currency that they had in the bank. They go, "Oh, good, I got this house. I have this kind of financial stability. I have this anchor." Well, now when you start thinking about cryptocurrency, you start thinking about, let's say, Bitcoin, for instance. I'll look at my Bitcoin and I go, "Okay, I could buy a house, but a house at best now is sort of a stable coin." That's all I'm doing. It's a house is not really exciting, because I'm like, I'd rather just keep my Bitcoin. And what do I want an expensive house for anymore? So this is changing things, where houses used to be a life raft for people to keep their devaluing currency. Will keep their currency from being devalued to nothing and make some money. And now a house, well, really, compared to just sitting in Bitcoin, no house is making that much at all. So it changes the way we do things. And
well, wait, Craig, let me stop
yeah.
you there. Why don't you use the house and take the equity out of it to buy the Bitcoin to continue to pay off your house, and when it accrues, if you decide to take out a saleable event and you do get the capital gains, you can add that into your sale price, take out that 30%, and then still pay down your mortgage with the money you borrowed off that. That'd be, at a particular percent. Let's say you're borrowing at 3.5% off the equity in your house, and then you're going to get a 30%, event for capital gains. But if you made 150 or 200 or 500%, then, you whacked your mortgage in half and then everything came out clean, I mean, how much do people want to spin the wheel of fortune here?
I like it. Oh, I like it. I think that's amazing. And see, that's why we pay David the big dollars, because he thinks of these things. It's very, very true. You could buy a house, borrow against the equity. Oh my gosh, put that into Bitcoin and basically pay for the house with that. And then also that money that you're not putting into payments monthly on that. So you've got Bitcoin accruing value, but also you can put your Bitcoin into like a interest accruing wallet. So you put it into Celsius or BlockFi, and you can make 6% right there on your Bitcoin APR, and that's getting paid out weekly or monthly. So basically, you could, I would say, if you got enough money to play with, you could just from interest alone, then plus Bitcoin's increasing value, you could just make your payments easily. You wouldn't even think about it. You're making money while you pay off your house. And you're thinking, people might ask, how much equity is your house made? You're like, I don't even think about it. That's small potatoes. Well, here's one before we sign. I know I'm here for an hour, but before I go, I wanted to mention one thing. Hey, Texas. We all know Texas is having a difficult time at the moment. And some people think that there's so many theories about what's going on. But something that really it just got my attention, and I can't let it go. And I've been annoying the crap out of everybody I know, because I just keep talking about it. But here's the thing. One of our favorite people, February 17th, Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, said, in regards to Texas, that's what happens when you don't pursue a Green New Deal. Now, Bless her little cotton socks, but I think she's an idiot. And I don't think she's smart enough to actually have made that statement just to be mean. I think that young child, that young Marxist, I think she heard her crew talking about this. I don't think she has the creativity to come up with that, you know, in an improvisational way just to be nasty. So what do you think of that? Do you think that she overheard something? I'm wondering, is this something being done to Texas? I don't know. That just seems to be evolving quicker and quicker in the news that I'm seeing. That, oh yeah, the weather may or may not be natural, but definitely the power issues are not natural.
Conjecture, you conspiracy theorist. Craig Simpson, RadiantCreators.com. Thank you so much for joining. Make sure you jump over and grab some more podcasts from Craig. He's just a plethora of information on how our world's unfolding in front of us. Craig, I appreciate you joining, and everybody out there will be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds. I'm Dave Devine, your host here on FreedomSlips.com, Revolution Radio Studio A. Listener supported. Please remember a donation tab right there on the front page, and many ways to support this venue on air. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. See you then.